Imagine a world where the Porsche 911 isn't a Porsche at all, where that rear engine silhouette, that distinctive flat six sound, didn't come from Zuffenhausen, but from BMW headquarters in Munich. What if I told you that the Porsche 911 you know and love today almost had a BMW roundel on its hood? That one of the most legendary rivalries in automotive history was this close to ending in the early 1990s? In the early 1990s, Porsche was weeks away from collapse. The company that gave us the legendary air-cooled flat six and dominated Le Mans 11 times was hemorrhaging money. Bankruptcy wasn't just a threat, it was almost inevitable. And that's when BMW made their move. For $600 million, BMW came within inches of swallowing Porsche whole, creating what could have been the most dominant automotive empire the world has ever seen. But what followed wasn't a merger. It was betrayal, secret meetings, backroom plots, and a power struggle that reads more like a Hollywood thriller than a business deal. This is the story of the Bavarian betrayal. To understand how close Porsche came to extinction, we need to rewind to the early 1990s. The numbers were brutal. In 1991, Porsche sold just 23,060 cars worldwide. For perspective, BMW was selling over 500,000 cars in the same year. BMW sold more cars in Germany alone than Porsche managed globally. But Porsche's problems weren't just financial, they were existential. Their star product, the 911, was nearly 30 years old in design philosophy. While competitors like Ferrari and Lamborghini were producing modern V8s and V12s, Porsche was still clinging to an air-cooled flat six design whose DNA stretched back to the Volkswagen Beetle engine that Ferdinand Porsche had developed in the 1930s. That air-cooled flat six was a masterpiece of engineering. The horizontally opposed cylinders balanced each other perfectly, creating that distinctive sound and incredible reliability. But by 1991, it was becoming a dinosaur. Emissions regulations were tightening, customers wanted refinement, and the writing was on the wall. The air-cooled era was ending. Porsche's engineers knew they needed a water-cooled engine for the next generation 911, but they didn't have the money. They estimated needing at least $500 million just for engine development, before factoring in new chassis design and updating antiquated production facilities. The Zuffenhausen factory, where every 911 was hand-assembled with Swiss watch precision, was operating at barely 60% capacity. For the first time in its history, Porsche looked like it might not survive. Enter Wolfgang Reitzle, BMW's charismatic engineering mastermind, who would change everything. Reitzle wasn't just another executive. He was the engineer's engineer, a man who could read engine specifications like poetry. Since joining BMW in 1976, he had revolutionized their engine development, including creating the legendary S38 inline-six that powered the E34 M5. This 3.8-liter masterpiece produced 315 horsepower and could rev to 7,000 RPM with silk-smooth precision. When Reitzle looked at Porsche in 1992, he didn't see a dying company. He saw a crown jewel. He envisioned something unprecedented: BMW's efficiency and technology fused with Porsche's obsessive racing-bred culture. Imagine inline-six and flat-six expertise under one roof, creating an automotive empire stretching from luxury sedans to Le Mans winners. Reitzle understood that Porsche's real value wasn't in their balance sheet, it was in their engineering culture. Porsche engineers didn't just design engines, they crafted them with religious obsession. This was something BMW, for all its excellence, couldn't replicate internally. To Reitzle, $600 million wasn't a gamble, it was destiny. By late 1992, Reitzle was convinced that acquiring Porsche was essential for BMW's future in the luxury sports car market. The price tag? $600 million, far above Porsche's book value. But you can't put a number on 11 Le Mans victories, global 911 recognition, or decades of engineering genius embedded in Porsche's DNA. The deal structure was revolutionary. Porsche would keep its brand identity and engineers while gaining access to BMW's financial muscle, technology, and efficient production methods. The plan: create BMW-Porsche, a new division similar to Audi within Volkswagen Group. Under this arrangement, The next generation 911 would feature a water-cooled flat six developed jointly by BMW and Porsche engineers, combining BMW's cooling expertise with Porsche's horizontally opposed architecture mastery. It seemed like the perfect marriage of Germany's greatest automotive dynasties. But back in Munich, BMW's powerful CEO Eberhard von Kuenheim was livid. To von Kuenheim, $600 million for Porsche was madness when the same amount could buy the much larger Rover Group. Porsche wasn't a savior. It was a liability with tiny volumes and massive development costs ahead. Von Kuenheim's opposition was both financial and philosophical. BMW's brand meant balance, performance with refinement. Porsche represented uncompromising extremes where comfort was sacrificed for pure speed. This could fracture BMW's carefully built identity. The technical challenges were equally daunting. BMW's factories were optimized for inline engines. Adding Porsche's flat six architecture would require completely different production equipment and astronomical tooling costs. BMW's engineering teams were already stretched developing new engine families. To von Kuenheim, this wasn't strategy. It was Reitzle's dangerous obsession. Just as the deal seemed doomed, Ferdinand Piëch entered the drama, and everything changed. If Reitzle was BMW's engineering genius, Piëch was Porsche royalty and arguably the most brilliant, ruthless automotive mind of his generation. Grandson of Ferdinand Porsche himself, Piëch had masterminded the Porsche 917 that delivered the company's first Le Mans victory in 1970. The 917 wasn't just fast. It was revolutionary, featuring magnesium construction and cooling systems that allowed its flat 12 engine to produce over 1,000 horsepower. By the 1990s, Piëch was chairman of Audi, transforming it from boring family cars into a genuine BMW competitor. When these two engineering obsessives met, they found common ground, and Piëch saw opportunity. What if Porsche didn't sell to BMW? What if they could steal Reitzle himself? In secret meetings, Piëch laid out his audacious counteroffer: leave BMW, join Porsche, become CEO. The offer was irresistible. At BMW, Reitzle would always be second to von Kuenheim. At Porsche, he could be king, creating pure automotive excellence without compromise. He envisioned water-cooled engines retaining Porsche's distinctive character while meeting modern regulations. But accepting meant betrayal on an unprecedented scale. Reitzle would walk away with intimate knowledge of BMW's future plans while joining the company BMW was trying to buy. When news leaked, it detonated like a bomb. BMW's boardroom erupted. Von Kuenheim felt personally betrayed. The German press called it corporate treason, and for the first time in years, Porsche had real leverage. Then came the shocking twist nobody saw coming. Wolfgang Reitzle never became Porsche's CEO. In a last-minute reversal, the Porsche family chose Wendelin Wiedeking, a relatively unknown executive from manufacturing company Gleico. The reasons remain controversial. Some say Reitzle's BMW background created trust issues. Others believe Porsche needed a businessman, not another engineer, to restructure operations and restore profitability. Whatever the reason, Reitzle's defection had served its purpose. It demonstrated Porsche's independence and ability to attract top talent. BMW's dream was officially dead. Meanwhile, BMW learned a painful lesson about acquisition strategy. In 1994, BMW bought Rover Group for $1.2 billion, twice Porsche's price. On paper, it looked smart. Land Rover, Mini, manufacturing capacity, and real volume. In reality, complete disaster. Rover's facilities were outdated, quality control abysmal, engineering culture chaotic. BMW's precision-obsessed engineers clashed with Rover's looser approach. The brand hemorrhaged money year after year. By 2000, BMW was desperate to escape. They sold Land Rover to Ford, kept Mini, developing it successfully, but essentially gave away core Rover operations. While Porsche soared, BMW's billion-dollar gamble collapsed, a humiliating reminder of the deal that got away. The BMW-Porsche saga offers timeless lessons about automotive engineering and corporate strategy. Heritage and culture can't be bought. BMW couldn't purchase Porsche's obsessive perfectionism. The intangible qualities that make enthusiasts passionate about brands matter more than specifications alone. Different engineering philosophies are difficult to merge. BMW's inline engines and Porsche's flat engines each represented design perfection, but combining them risked weakening both approaches' distinctive characters. Sometimes focus beats resources. Porsche survived not through outspending rivals, but through clearest vision and disciplined execution. Today's automotive landscape shows similar dynamics. Tesla's success mirrors Porsche's turnaround, a focused manufacturer pursuing a singular vision, while established giants initially dismissed them as niche players. The story of BMW's failed Porsche acquisition is ultimately about the soul of automotive engineering and what makes certain cars transcend transportation to become objects of passion. Had BMW succeeded, we might have gotten technically superior cars with better efficiency and advanced technology. But we might have lost something irreplaceable: Porsche's obsessive culture that prioritizes performance over practicality, and their racing heritage that values pure speed over mass appeal. Instead, Porsche's independence forced innovation. They created the Boxster, proving mid-engine sports cars could be profitable. They developed the Cayenne, showing SUVs could have sports car DNA. They pioneered hybrid performance with the 918 Spider, demonstrating electrification could enhance rather than diminish capability. Wolfgang Reitzle never shaped Porsche according to his vision, but built a successful career elsewhere. Ferdinand Piëch became one of the automotive industry's most powerful figures. Wendelin Wiedeking achieved legendary status for one of business history's greatest turnarounds. The engines we love today: Porsche's evolved water-cooled flat sixes, BMW M's high-revving inline sixes, hybrid powertrains combining electric motors with traditional engines, exist because competition forced each manufacturer toward their unique vision of excellence. BMW's M division developed into a legitimate Porsche competitor through internal innovation rather than acquisition. The rivalry between these Bavarian giants continues pushing both toward greater achievements. The automotive world is richer because BMW didn't swallow Porsche. Competition breeds innovation, and diversity of approaches leads to better solutions. The Bavarian betrayal reminds us that sometimes the most important deals are the ones that never get signed. Sometimes the best outcomes come from paths not taken, and the greatest victories are achieved through independence rather than absorption. In the end, both companies thrived precisely because they remained separate, each pursuing their distinct vision of what the ultimate driving machine should be.